Hello, everyone. My name is Michelle Ledoux, and I'm the Director of Hospitality and Restaurant Management at the Institute of Culinary Education. Welcome to this installment of our guest lecture demo series. As a reminder, this demonstration is being broadcast. So if you're watching online, please post questions to our YouTube chat. And for students and staff here today, please wait for us to pass around the microphone so we can all hear your questions. Our goal in these series of demos and lectures is to highlight culinary excellence of contemporary chefs and culinary entrepreneurs. In the recent past, we have hosted Chef David Lefevre of the Arthur J, Chef Michael Cimarusti of the Michelin-starred Providence, Mattia Agazi of Gucci Osteria, and Eric Klein, Vice President of Wolfgang Puck Catering. Sam
Hello.
B, that we call him, Sam Bakhshandehpour, is Chief Executive Officer and a board member of José Andrés Group, a restaurant and media company driven by the mission of changing the world through the power of food. JAG's platform spans 40-plus world-class restaurants across 9 markets globally, including the 2 Michelin-starred Minibar by José Andrés and numerous Michelin-bib gourmet restaurants. Mr. Bakhshandehpour also runs José Andrés Media Jam, which produces food-related cultural content across scripted and unscripted media channels, film, television, books, podcasts, digital content, including the Emmy Award-winning series José Andrés and Family in Spain. Through his hospitality investment platform, the Silverstone Companies, Mr. Bakhshandehpour has made numerous investments, including the Electric Jane and the Bazaar by José Andrés, and select other hotels, restaurants, and lifestyle properties. Please join me in welcoming our special guest, Sam B.
Well, I'm sorry to disappoint everyone because it sounds like you've got some incredible speakers. And Michelle couldn't get Jose or anyone else today, so here I am.
Well, we're honored to have you.
Honored to be here.
And what I think, our students and staff here, want to hear your journey and how you got to be in the position that you are, working for José Andrés and then running your own investment platform.
No, I appreciate that. And before I tell you my journey, I'm here because I absolutely adore Michelle. We have a long history. We're partners together at the Bazaar in Beverly Hills. And the last time we did this was not as fun because we were on a Zoom screen and I was a 2x2-inch square. So this is a lot more fun. Thrilled to be here. It's so nice to see everyone in the room. And thank you for those who are joining online. My culinary journey to this seat is an unusual one. As I was half joking, but dead serious, I'm not a traditional, classically trained chef like many others who end up in this seat. I started my career actually on Wall Street. And I'll share a story. I was in training, my associate training at JP Morgan. And I was on 60 Wall, where we had the training in the financial district of Manhattan. And the day came when you had to put down your top 3 choices of industries to cover from a finance lens. And it was investment banking, doing M&A, capital raising. And there are all these different industries to cover. And I put down hospitality, hospitality, hospitality. And I get called up by the head of training. And she looks at me and goes, "Did you not understand the assignment? We asked for 3. And I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna have to call my dad, tell him I got fired before I even started my job. He's gonna kill me. And long story short, my answer was, I'm very passionate about hospitality, all things, hotels, restaurants, nightclubs, anything that's entertainment, leisure around hospitality. Like that's my personal passion. So if you put me into the biotech group or forest products, like I won't be as successful because I don't really love that industry. And it was a good enough answer that I didn't get fired, which is the good news. So they put me in real estate. I'm like, clearly a natural extension. I'm like, all right, I still have a job, good news. But as I'm in real estate, I found a home in hotels and casinos. And the industry I covered was large hotel companies, boutique hotels. And then I moved from New York to LA. I ended up running the casino practice. So not just Vegas, but globally. Every market from regional casinos in New Orleans to, international in Macau to Vegas, Atlantic City, and everything in between. And what I realized during that first window of my career was that the heart and soul of real estate, of these boxes, is hospitality, are the restaurants. And that's what really adds soul to the equation. And otherwise, it's a sterile four walls. And you think about this building, you have this beautiful kitchen and all this energy and life flowing through the four walls. It's living, breathing real estate. Without it, it's literally a box. And then, as of what I learned growing up in the boardrooms of, Mr. Wynn and MGM and Hilton, I learned about strategy. How do you take the creative and actually build a business around it? How do you take something that starts with one restaurant and build a global platform? How do you take people, which are the heart and soul of hospitality, and go from having a job as a food runner, as a dishwasher, as a line cook, some entry-level position, and end up becoming CEO? Because people are the key to the growth, as is capital and the business strategy. So I learned all this on Wall Street. And very quickly, I realized I love my Wall Street experience. I was at one of the top banks. They were so good to me. And this was at JP Morgan. I love my group. I'm still in touch with my group. But my heart and soul wasn't to be an investment banker for life. That was really an education. My father always puts it, he goes, you're getting a master's degree and they're actually paying you for it. And that was always the mentality I had. So it was like I was the first one on the field and the last one off. And I always wanted to be a sponge, just learn as much as I can. Oh, by the way, and I was getting paid. So it was a win-win. But my goal always was to be on the operations side. And what I loved about the operations was this. It's real people, it's real careers being built, and it's real dollars. And when I think of my very first P&L meeting of one of our restaurants, when I was running SBE, we're sitting there and there was a debate over a $200 expense. And it was so refreshing to me because it was real money. It was two real $100. Not monopoly money like on Wall Street, where it'd be like, unless it's a $2 billion deal, we won't touch it. I never could get my arms around what was paper money versus this is real life. It's real people and every dollar counts. And the mentality was spend it like you're spending your own money. So I kept balancing this incredible opportunity I had where we first met. Now I'm on the operations side. Now I'm running a business where my learning curve was so steep because I knew the finance side, I knew the strategy side. So my very first Saturday night, remember Matt Erickson we work with, I called him, it was the very first Saturday night, went to my wife, I'm like, I'm going to work. She's like, what do you mean? I go, I'm opening the restaurant and I'm shutting it down. And I want to shadow the team to see from the minute they unlock the doors till they take the trash out and turn the lights off, what happens inside of these four walls. So I started shadowing the kitchen, shadowing the operations, division by division, marketing, finance, HR, accounting. I was an intern all over again. And I really cut my teeth on all the facets of operations to running a business. And we ended up recapitalizing that company where I was CEO, and I launched this investment platform. And my thinking was, let me go find platforms that I believe in that are led by visionaries where we can now invest capital. And I partnered with another family office. And about 6 years ago, after my first investment was in José Andrés Group with this platform, Silverstone, you mentioned, the board of directors and Jose asked me to come in-house. And I was back on the operations side. And it's the best of both worlds because now I had an investment and I'm running day to day.
of operations. And that's how I got to this point, which I'll go into more detail about marrying the creative and the business and why I love that yin and the yang that goes hand in hand.
That's fabulous, right? What a journey. And so tell us a little bit about what it's like working for José Andrés and his vision of his global company now and World Central Kitchen and how that all works together.
It's calm, it's boring, nothing interesting ever happens. There are no big emotions, typical culinary, right? No, it really is a dream come true. From the first time I met Jose, I admired him so much because he is the most authentic person I've ever met. You know him as well as I do. What I love about this industry, it's real and it's passion. And with passion, when you actually put a business lens around it and the right strategy, magic happens. And passionate leaders sometimes need people like me to partner and put up a vision for the business side. And what I love about Jose, he knows what he doesn't know. And that's the honesty speaks to his character, speaks to his humility, and speaks to his goal of, again, very simply put, making sure people are fed. And whether that's World Central Kitchen, which is outside of my purview, but Jose and those incredible men and women eating people wherever there's disasters, whether it's the media business with a couple of these books that, I was lucky to be a part of, the shows, or our 45 restaurants, whether it's our investors, whether it's our partners. In his mind, he wants to make sure everyone is fed. And everyone does it in their own way. Our team takes a lot of pride in that name on the front of the jersey, José Andrés Group, because it stands for something. And that mission you said in the intro, that's not just words on a website. That's a real, authentic mission, changing the world through the power of food. And we're all lucky we get to do it in our own ways. He's fiery. He's passionate. He believes in perfection. And that's a really interesting dynamic because artists all seek perfection and perfection is never attained. So it's this endless journey. And for those of you who've been in the kitchen, and I see this from afar, I look through a window like that, staring in because I don't want to be on the inside. They can keep doing the dish over and over and over and over and over again. And yet you can always do it better. It's like an athlete. Yeah. You can always be faster. You can always be quicker. You can always score more points. You can always do something better. So you never get there. And it's guys like me that come in that say, okay, how do we harness this energy and now translate it into a business that can deliver experiences globally to more people, that can take young members of a team who come in and have them build careers. We just celebrated a woman, Maria, who works at Haleo in DC, who I adore. I met her when I was in college in DC. Wow. Haleo just opened. She just celebrated 32 years with us.
Wow.
From day one. Her daughter now works in our business. And I'm like, that's really the North Star. We just celebrated her and a bunch of anniversaries, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, where I'm like, that's what I want to harness and show that there's a real career path for people in this industry. But that starts and ends with Jose.
Yeah. Amazing. And people really are the product that makes this José Andrés Group run the way it runs, right? I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah, it's the heart and soul. I mean, it's everything starts and ends with people in this business. And I had this conversation with someone the other day. It was like, why are chef founders so fearful of growth? And it was an interesting debate because if you say, how do you define success? And I use the example of El Bulli, Ferran and Albert Adria's restaurant, what was the number one restaurant in the world for so many years. And that's where Jose started. And I've had this debate with Jose. I go, was El Bulli a success? Show of hands. How many people here think El Bulli was a success? Raise your hand. It's not a trick question.
Everybody.
Pretty much everybody. Now, if I told you a restaurant went bankrupt and everyone was let go, how many people would say that's a success? El Bulli was both. Noma. I was so lucky. It was one of the most incredible vegetarian meals I've had in my life. The last 2 summers, in 2 summers prior, in Copenhagen. #1 restaurant in the world. They're shutting down their doors. So is that a success? On the opposite end of the spectrum, who thinks a Subway sandwich is real food? Maybe.
It's good.
It's good. It's good. It fills you up and it's tasty. But the USDA, based on the qualification of defining bread, said this has too much sugar, is technically not bread. And that's crazy, right?
Yeah.
So that has 20 some odd thousand locations. You look at the market cap of some of these fast food chains, they're unbelievable. They're hundreds of billions of dollars. So some define that as financial success. But it has some downside as well. So there is no right or wrong. I'm sharing this because this is the debate I was having. I've had it with Jose and our board. I was having it with this other investor friend of mine. And a lot of the names, the chefs on that board have had success on both fronts. And that's definitely doable. My mind and my strength is to come in and take the magic that happens in the kitchen, take the passion, preserve it as much as possible, not kill the soul, yet expand and grow a business. Because I sit there, I'll give you another example. I was in Saudi Arabia 3 trips over the past 2 years. And I needed to go see it for myself. I'm like, I was so skeptical. I had so many questions. And I show up and I was staying in Riyadh. And my very first, it was around lunchtime. And I went up to the valet guy. And I said, hey, man, where would you go for lunch to get a shawarma around here? And he's like, oh, sir, go in, ask the concierge. They'll give you all these. I go, I don't want the concierge's recommendation. Where would you and your buddies go for lunch? And I was, I was wearing my suit and tie, like ready to go to a meeting. I go, I want to eat where you eat. I go, I want to experience what you experience as a local. He goes, really? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, I want good food. I don't want the food that's recommended because it's on a list. So he goes, Mama Noura. It's like, Mama Noura, the best shawarma. I'm like, let's go to Mama Noura. So I literally hopped in a car, went to this 4th generation woman-owned business in the heart of Riyadh, in the heart of Saudi. And I said, I'd like to meet with Mama Noura. And I got to meet Mama Noura. She comes out. I go, look, I work in the restaurant business. We have a Mediterranean restaurant in New York. First, I ate the food. And I was like, oh, my God, this is unreal. So good. And then I met Mama Noura. And I said, we have a Mediterranean restaurant called Zaytinya. I'd be honored to bring you to the U.S. and promote your story. I go, I love your story, arguably more than I love your food, because you're 4th generation female-run business in the heart of Saudi Arabia. Like,
Wow. That's amazing.
Right?
Yeah.
So I sat there and I'm like, I have no idea where I'm going with this story, but it's a really good story. So I sit there and I'm like, where the magic happens, Mama Noura's been doing this for 4 generations. Let's go and try to get her, shed some light on her business, promote Mama Noura, and let that experience of the shawarma that I had in Riyadh, where I bet most people have never been to Riyadh, why not bring that to downtown LA? Why not bring that to New York? Why not take that to Nashville? And that to me is why, now I remember where I was going with all this. I have a little bit of ADD, by the way, for the record, if you can't tell. Bringing these incredible culinary experiences to the world is serving others. And that's where the business, and again, I'm looking like Curtis is a dear friend. I'm like, Curtis, Gwen is arguably one of the best steakhouses I've ever been to in my life, hands down, bar none. Like, bring that to other markets. His success, he's there hands-on, right? So it's like, how do you now evolve where it meets his expectations, yet he can't be in two different markets at the same time? That's where I come in, and I spend a lot of time in putting the strategy, promoting from within the teams to bring those visions to life.
Wow, that's amazing. So did Mama come?
So Mama Nora is launching.
Launching in New York.
Wow,
Yep.
that's amazing.
Yeah.
What a great story.
I know.
That's amazing, huh?
Yeah, it's pretty incredible.
So you're investing in her because of her
We're
passion?
not investing in her business. What we're doing, we're licensing it. So she's
Oh,
going to make money, and I'm like, come and tell your story. Like, it's a beautiful story, beautiful recipes. Let us replicate it, put it on the lunch menu, and get you the exposure you need. But these are just wonderful human stories, right?
absolutely.
It goes
That's-
beyond just the business side. It's both.
Yeah.
And that makes it authentic and interesting for the guests, where they're like, because most people won't, in New York, most people have not been to Riyadh,
Yeah.
and arguing no one's heard of Mama Nora,
Right. Right.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So we have many different students, different backgrounds, and in pastry, in culinary, in management. What advice would you give our students on their journey to working for José Andrés Group and many restaurants in Los Angeles of that caliber?
Yeah, I think what I love about this is you all have already done the hardest part, and you have pinpointed a passion that you love the culinary arts. And the spice of life is art. And every culture defines, no matter, and there's, I could already tell, there's all this beautiful culture in this room. If you stood up here and said, what defines your culture? Most likely, people would talk about music, art, food, some combination thereof. Food is always part of the equation. I'm Persian descent, and I have this debate whether it's, my Nigerian friend, whether it's my Spanish friend, whether it's my Japanese friend. We all have our own rice dishes, and they're all trying to be as good as the Persian tahdig. I'm like, and they never will get close. Someone will come and tell me about the paella, and someone will tell me about jollof rice. I'm like, those are wonderful. Battle for second place, because in my culture, tahdig is number one. And that holds true. So you've taken the first step, which is, the beauty of food and how it heals, brings people together, people celebrate and unite, and you have great memories attached to food. So food is the magic, and never lose sight of why you're doing what you're doing, because you're a believer. You're a believer that you have found a key to life that brings fulfillment, and that's a meal. So when you start with that North Star of passion, then it's like, okay, well, that passion's great, but it's not paying my bills. So I'm like, how do I get a job and pay my bills? Passion keeps you grounded, and it keeps you because there's good times and bad no matter what you do. And there's dark moments and there's bright moments. When it's lower vibration moments, that passion is your reset. You kind of tap back into it. And for me, I think of one meal that brought me joy and why I'm now serving others, and it's a nice reset. Learning this business, and I use that word intentionally, because if you're in the kitchen, if you're in management, if you're in marketing, if you're on the finance side, understanding how all these pieces tie together, that's the foundation that you lay out. And I encourage all of you to speak to those who are in the food business, in the restaurant business, but may have a different skill set than you. And for me, culinary. The irony of all this is I'm up here, food, you think about cooking, and other than my basic avocado toast that I make for my family, I'm not much of a cook. So go talk to someone who now understands your business. Maybe it's from the marketing side. Marketing has multiple tiers. Finance, accounting, IT. How does technology weave its way into this business? If we're having this conversation, hopefully if I don't blow it too badly today, she'll invite me back 5 years from now.
That's right.
I guarantee we're going to spend a bunch of time talking about how are we tech enabling this business? Where does AI,
Yes.
the drinking word of the day, where you need to take
Yeah.
a shot every time you hear AI and everyone will be wasted. Like, where does AI play into this? Learn, expose yourself to understanding different functional areas of culinary, of the culinary arts. You do that, when you end up, whatever angle interests you, you break in. Again, I would challenge you to put yourself outside of your comfort zone, because I'll give you another perfect example, myself. My comfort zone is the finance, is the business development. That I have exposure to, I've done it for years. I know how to set the strategy, capitalize a business, and grow it, and maximize shareholder value, make money for everybody.
Yeah.
That is my comfort zone. You know what's out my comfort zone? Trying to figure out a social media campaign. I'm looking at you.
Yeah, exactly, right?
For real.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what goes viral. I don't know any of these micro influencers. I don't understand. I innately don't. I appreciate it. I don't get it. And spending time with my marketing team who reports up to me, I'm like, you're reporting to a guy who has no clue what you do. And that's the honest truth. It's like, I do not know how to tell you what the right social media campaign is to launch Bizarre Meat at downtown LA. But they do. I'm building a different muscle. And it's like working out. If you do the same workouts over and over again, you don't get the same impact. It's like if you swim all the time and then go do weights and do heavy weights, you are so sore you can't sit down because you worked out another muscle. View your journey in the culinary arts as building other muscles. And it's important to gain that exposure. And sometimes it's painful because you're like, this is just not interesting. But why do I say it's important? Because to build a career in this industry, you need to know how all the chain link fence comes together. And this is like a beautiful orchestra. To make a restaurant hum, you need someone to procure the food. You could have the best chef in the world, but if they haven't procured the right ingredients, they don't have anything to cook with. If you don't have the right kitchen equipment,
Right.
they're not able to utilize their techniques. If the staffing is not there, if someone's not there to actually clean the dishes, you can't turn a restaurant. I mean, how many times did we have call outs?
How many times did we jump in the dish bin and help?
How many times have I rolled up my sleeve to literally clear the tables?
Yeah.
Because that's
A
what
lot.
we were together. I'm like, that's what you do. It's like you show up and you act. But understanding how all this kind of plays together, I think, is invaluable because it gives you optionality. And that's what ultimately in life, again, go back to your North Star, you know, we love food. Like, that's really a huge step. Because you could be sitting here being like, well, I love 50 other things as well. Do I do this? Do I do that? You love food. Understand the makeup of where can this journey take you. And that's at the restaurant level. Because most likely, most of you will graduate and learn that skill, master that craft at a restaurant level. And then in our industry, there's something interesting because you have restaurant level and then you have the corporate machine, central and the decentralized. And to hire at the corporate level, you hire from within. And within a four-wall restaurant, you can become a regional manager. So it's like you work your way up there. And I was at another place, which will go nameless, talking about to students about the journey.
Right.
And someone made the comment, they said, well, the goal is to become head chef or GM. And I said, I respectfully disagree. The goal is for you to become the global CEO.
Right.
Because you can. And there's no reason why you can't start as an intern and literally be a food runner and not end up, this industry affords you that opportunity, but you have to learn the whole spectrum, try your hand at different things. The goal, the ceiling is a lot higher than just I'm GM of one restaurant. And that's the beauty of what I love about this career path.
That's fantastic, right? Good news for everybody, right?
Just don't take my job too soon. Because
yeah, wait a little bit, right? So our culinary management students actually create a business plan. So they go through all the courses and they come out, they choose a concept and they develop it throughout the different courses. What advice would you give our students in that aspect of having a business plan, having an idea, and then turning it into a restaurant and the fruition with investments and things like that?
Yeah, I love that question because I can't tell you how many people approach me with the next great idea. And I love the passion, but the idea needs to have a framework around it that equates to a proper business. And I always think of the funnel approach. The top of the funnel for success for any business is demand. To make sure that you're entering a category that has enough breadth and there's enough appetite to build a successful business. So if you end up being too niche and too narrow, you can still be successful, but it's a lot harder. And in our industry, I'll give you a perfect example. It's like having a vegan menu versus having a burger. And pretty easy to understand that there's less vegans that are burger lovers. So not to say you can't have, and one of my favorite humans on the planet, Chef Chloe, is the face of a concept that I think is pure gem in New York. And she is the face of being a vegan chef, super successful. But think about the burger category, it's just bigger. So not right or wrong again, it's just being aware. The more you have the larger your market that you're going after, the more success. Then from a business plan standpoint, it's again finding balance between the art and the science. So you can make, and I'll use the burger example because this is happening real time as we speak. Our chef partner, Chef Nico Lopez of Mercado Little Spain in New York. This is Jose's love letter, Spanish love letter to New York City. It's always ranked year in and year out since opening, top 100 restaurants in Manhattan. Beautiful marketplace. You think you've been transported to the heart of Spain. I approached Nico, and Nico's a great story, by the way, total side note. Nico started as a chef. He now runs all of Mercado Little Spain. It's one of the highest grossing markets in Manhattan. 3 full-service restaurants, 12 kiosks, 4 bars, and a retail component. 40,000 square feet in the heart of Manhattan. I didn't hire someone with ops experience to come run it. We promoted Chef Nico to now chef partner. That's because he actually demonstrated, I actually understand the numbers. I actually understand the marketing. I'm a good leader of people. I'm respectful. I'm firm yet, respectful of people. I'm a decent cook. He's all right, And he understood the business through and through. Now he's running the entire, that's a whole company in itself. It's not just one restaurant. But that element of leadership brought us to the table one day. And I said, Nico, we need a burger. And Jose, he's a purist. He's like, we don't do burgers. And I'm like, Jose, come to New York, try Nico's burger. And Nico's like, I got you. He makes this burger, the Chula burger, 60-day aged chuletón burger. Arguably the best burger I've ever had in my life. And people will come in here, they're like, this is ridiculous. And for those of you in New York, get a hold of me and I'll host. If it's not the best burger you've ever had, I'll pay for it. Like that's,
I don't take us up on it.
So I'm sitting there and I'm like, this burger's unreal. Jose comes to Mercado and the social media team's in the back filming this. True story. And I'm sure you can still look this up. He takes a bite and he goes, people in New York, this is not only the best burger in New York, this is the best burger in the galaxy. And this thing goes viral. Next day, there's a line of people out the door being like, I want this burger I saw on TikTok. And it is. So it's now, I'm like, because it was just available on the menu, we've created a kiosk for the Chula burger.
Wow.
We just launched a steakhouse in Mercado called Chula Steak. Right in the middle of the menu is the Chula burger.
Wow.
Real time, Nico and I are working on a business plan where clearly we have proof of product. It's a killer burger. Clearly the market is big enough. We launched our first pop-up to test it out, and it tested well. There's now a marketing plan around this CHOOLA, Chula. It's like a little play on words. So there's a whole marketing campaign around this burger. We have arenas have approached us, have said, we would love to replace our generic burger concept with the Chula burger that you have. And this was Nico's creation.
Wow.
100% Nico. He's the face of it. I've been putting all the muscle behind him. But the reason this business plan worked was not only was the market big enough, not only was the product perfected, but there was a real business plan around it.
Yeah.
And the business plan was, what's the cost to make the burger? How much can we sell this burger for? Is there other burgers? I'm like, how many people are going to buy a $30 burger? Like it applies again, very narrow niche. Shake Shack has had a ton of success because it's expensive, but it's still approachable. So it slots in perfectly and it's a tasty, more of a gourmet experience. But that third leg of the stool is there's a real business plan behind it. And the business plan is centered and rooted in numbers to say, how many do I need to sell to pay my bills?
Yes.
And it starts there where once you prove the market is big enough, I have the right product and I'm being thoughtful on the number side of the house, then you can refine it and figure out, okay, when do we launch the first location? How do I raise money for it? Do I lease it? Do I do a license deal? So on and so forth.
Right. That's amazing,
Yeah.
huh? I want that burger.
It's a good burger.
Yeah.
It's a darn good burger.
Pop up in Los Angeles, perhaps?
We can make that happen. We can make that happen. Yeah.
Or we'll bring Nico here and he'll do a demo.
He should, honestly.
Yeah,
He's unbelievable. Such an incredible talent. He's way cooler than I am. Like that's who you want here.
Amazing.
You won't understand half the word he says, but he's definitely cooler.
That's amazing. Speak to the students a little bit about a path to working in a media company. How does that, what does that look like in terms of?
Yeah, so Jose had been doing media his whole career. So this wasn't like this is what you'll know about me. I basically take what's already done and successfully created and I package it and I promote it. So I'm like, the hard work was already done. He's already a media star, big personality.
Yeah.
I created a platform. The vision was we're doing storytelling in the restaurants. So even that burger, like there's a story behind it. And people love a good story. So media, I said, why don't we take the stories like the paella? Like the paella Valenciana is a beautiful story of how the paella, like the real paella, not the paella that the vegetarian version or the meat version, like there's the real paella as a story. Now let's take that story and tell it on the screen. And that show that you referenced, Jose and his daughters in Spain, was a travel log. They went to the origins and told you where the paella Valenciana was born. And people love food storytelling. So we launched this media company to be an extension of the restaurants to tell those stories. When I say your journey, it's like if you appreciate food and you understand that the paella is really your product, now how are you telling that story? There's an angle you could go the media route. Be like, look, I'm passionate about food. I have an interest in media. And you start off, you could be literally a runner on the show. Start as an interest similar to that same paella. I love food. I'm passionate about food. I want to work in a restaurant to serve others. Boom. You could be a food runner or a show runner. 2 entry points. North Star, again, is your love for food.
Amazing. Can you talk to the students a little bit about what, from a people aspect, to get to work for a company like yours, what attributes do you look for in interviewing?
Yeah, very simply, number one is positive attitude. Assuming everyone here has the same passion for food, so it starts passion. But positive attitude, there is no replacement, especially in this industry. And for me, my barometer is 50 plus 1. And that's the energy exchange. When you say hello to someone, how often have you walked away, you're like, I think that person may be having a bad day because they exude something is off. Not judgment, it's just a moment in time. But this industry requires that high energy positivity. So positive attitude, no replacement. And then it's effort. This is where, again, to use a sports analogy, it's not always the best athlete that ends up being the Hall of Famer. It's the one that works the hardest. It's not the one who jumps the highest, runs the fastest. They work the hardest. They have the right attitude, good leadership, and they put in the work. And my first two, you can quickly tell when you speak to someone, it's like, is this person going to be the first one in the kitchen, in the dining room, in the room, and the last one out? And do they lead with a positive attitude? If you have that, that's the majority of the challenge of any industry, like truly any job. I start there, then I layer on passion. Like they really love this industry. And then it's teamwork, it's like, and typically positivity covers teamwork because people bring the temperature down and they know like there'll be moments, we all butt heads, we all have moments. You get along with some people, you don't get along with others, but the ability to work in teams and, that this is all about, again, that name on the front of the jersey, not the name on the back of the jersey. Yeah. And even if Jose was sitting here, he would tell you that. Every other day is an exaggeration. Regularly, he's like, so why do we call this company José Andrés Group? Because it used to be called Think Food Group. Yeah. And I'm like, Jose, they'll always tie it back to you. You're now a brand that stands for something. And to me, that's why I rebranded the business with his blessing and his family's blessing. But ultimately, the whole point is this is about the team. And if, the team arguably, and I've said this, the team is arguably more important than the guest. And most everyone in this industry will say customer is always right. Customer first. I actually think if the team is not taken care of and the team is not happy, they can't serve others. So I'm all about respect for the team. And in interviewing people, I want people on that team who also have that same philosophy, because if they're not respectful to one another, they're not going to be a good team member. If they're not a good team member, it impacts the culture. If the culture is impacted, it impacts the guest. And that's why, again, positive attitude kind of comes first for me.
Oh, that's great, right? So true. Shall we turn it to you guys for some questions? Yes? Okay, I think Angie's going to walk around with the microphone. Thank you, Angie. I think I like
My name is Liza, and I want to ask you one question about how do you balance running restaurants with helping people through World Central Kitchen?
Yeah, it's a wonderful question. It's how do we balance running restaurants and we at the same time known for World Central Kitchen? Two separate organizations. So you have one that is a for-profit organization, restaurant, media, consumer products. One is a nonprofit organization, which is World Central Kitchen. They're both sister companies of Chef José Andrés. And what is really a beautiful thing, we've all volunteered, we all love the work that is done on the nonprofit side. But on my side of the house, what we love more is what we stand for. And many businesses try to have a philanthropic arm that is not a real natural extension of their DNA. For us, feeding others is a natural extension. So many of us work, including myself. The reason I went in-house was, Jose says this all the time. He's like, you do what you do, so I can do what I do. So indirectly, all the men and women who work for José Andrés Group truly take pride that there's an affiliate organization that's feeding others in need. And we, from time to time, have opened our kitchens to having World Central Kitchen team members come and cook out of our venues. When the pandemic hit and all the restaurants shut down, March of 2020, Mercado Little Spain, where Chef Nico, that I had mentioned, was, our entire team came and cooked food on behalf of World Central Kitchen as volunteers to feed the first responders. And there's many examples of this where, our team members have volunteered to be World Central Kitchen volunteers to feed others. Again, two totally separate organizations, separate leadership, one common spirit.
Hi, my name is Brittany. My question is, what is something that Jose Andres had said to you that solidified to you that, yes, I want to work for this guy?
Oof, that is a good question, Brittany. You said a lot of things to me.
Oh, I know.
We were, I'll tell you, originally we were sitting in Bazaar in that PDR, which is what became Somni.
Yeah.
And Jose kept harping on this point because we were talking about how complex the business is. And, us finance guys make big deal of things because it, justifies our jobs, make it complicated. And he goes, it's about good food and good service. Simple. He's like, I cook really good food and we provide really good service. That's it. That's your formula. I don't understand your EBITDA margins and your, all this other stuff you're talking about. He's like, just make good food and provide good service. And fast forward, right at the start of the pandemic, or maybe officially, we had never used the word pandemic, but you knew something was off. I'm in his backyard and he's smoking a stogie. We're sitting back there and we're kind of like trying to figure it all out because you knew things were bad. And I turned to him. I'm like, hey man, what do you want to do? Like, what's your calling? Because he was asking me to come in-house and we were chatting. And he said, Sam, my calling is to feed the people. I feed the few and I feed the many. And I knew right away, I'm like, all right, I'm clearly not feeding the many. That's his job. So I need him perfect feeding the few in our handful of restaurants so he can go and feed the many. But that quote always stuck with me.
Thank you.
Absolutely, Brittany.
I love that.
Yeah. Now for some easier questions than what Brittany.
How is an organization like World Central Kitchen funded?
All donations.
All donations.
So primarily individual and corporate donations.
Okay, so it's not coming from Jose Andres, like from his companies or.
Not from his companies. The story, and this is all documented in the Ron Howard documentary on World Central Kitchen, called We Feed People. There's a scene where Jose has a co-founder, who I should have mentioned at the outset, who you know well, a gentleman named Rob Wilder. Rob Wilder actually hired Jose to be a cook in his Spanish restaurant called Jaleo. And Rob always says, I didn't realize I was hiring my future boss, but here we are. Rob co-founded not just José Andrés Group, the original Think Food Group, but he co-founded World Central Kitchen. Rob and Jose literally took money out of their homes, like borrowed money to go and buy supplies when the hurricane happened in Puerto Rico. So the original funding was actually out of their own pocket and they were racking up debt. But they were so passionate because they're like, look, the world's kind of let down these people who are displaced because of this hurricane. Excuse my language, F it. We're going down there. We're going to we're going to borrow money and start cooking. Just start cooking and feeding. There's a great scene in the movie where Jose's basically breaks down in the documentary. He's on the phone, I forget, it's like with FEMA or some organization, like, hey, we need help. Like, these people need help. And he's literally, like, his voice is quivering because he's like, and Rob is sitting basically next to him and is taking money out to do that. But that's how it all started. It's pretty powerful. Like, it's like, gives me chills, like, thinking about that scene. You're like, that's just heart and passion. It's like, there was no, again, going back to where I come, there was no business plan and a funnel and here's the market size and you know what I'm saying? It was like, we're gonna go do it. Yeah.
That's amazing.
oftentimes you hear that chefs will have like 2 or 3 failed restaurants before they open a successful one, right? And you've talked to us about how the key to combating that is kind of to build a good business plan around the product. What are some of the key components to a good business plan?
These are really good questions. By the way, thanks for taking a shot at all my failures, which I have many of, but talk about that after. Like, what are the components of the business plan? Are a few. I'll categorize in a few areas. Number one is the product, like we talked about, making sure this is the best burger, and this is something people want. And you'd be shocked because that seems so obvious, but so oftentimes people all this other stuff. I hate to break it to you, your burger's not that good. And that's like, and I'm not saying that flippantly, like there's a lot of businesses where, is this what people want? And taking the time to really answer that question, and then is, who is my customer? So often, and I struggle with this even in our own company, because we have, like you said, from 2 Michelin star restaurants to food trucks and everything in between. And you walk into Haleo, which is a 32-year-old restaurant in DC, there are elderly people there, and there are college kids there, and there's families there with little ones. So I asked this question, and I don't have the answer to it, which is why I asked the question. I'm like, who's our customer? And our marketing team's like, it's hard to answer. We're way more complex to answer that question, but know who is your customer. It's like, is this what people want, and who am I actually going after? That's kind of phase 1 in my mind. Then when you're putting a business to succeed, it's a real estate game, right? Location doesn't make or break, but it definitely makes it easier if you have a good location versus if I'm only a destination. And after I thought I saw like David Chang's picture up there. You know, one of my favorite restaurants, Major Domo. He put it in the middle of, like off Chinatown, downtown area, and like a warehouse. It was a pure destination, really tough to get to. But people traveled, they would find good food. But if I'm sitting there main on main with, while we're in hotels with 300 hotel rooms like we had at SLS, and there's a lot of traffic, it just increases the probability of success. It also increases your rents because that real estate costs more. So it's trying to find that balance. So I think your location of where you're launching a restaurant is really key, as is the space within the space. So often design and development phase, I started with a product, then the customer, and now I'm going to real estate design development. Layouts of restaurants, both back of house, front of house, are super important. The design is super important because if it doesn't speak and create an ambiance, a lot of restaurants fail because of that. And some restaurants have great food and it's okay. It's not about the ambiance, but again, in my world of being full service, the ambiance is important. Then it comes the people side. Like, how are you actually hiring? Who is the team behind this? And good leaders typically hire good team members. And it starts with good leadership and a good, well-rounded team. Then it's your team, and then it goes to the financial side, where you're what's called underwriting. And the underwriting is, okay, I'm opening this restaurant. It's going to cost X to open. And so oftentimes people go and raise money. They're like, well, it's going to cost me, $1 million to build out the restaurant. And then I need to throw an opening party and, it'll cost me $1.1 million. But they never think about the ramp period. What is the ramp period? It's the couple years after you open the restaurant where you're ramping your business. That's why most restaurants fail. People are like, oh, it's bad real estate decision. Part of it. Oh, it's, we didn't do all the other stuff. The reason is people run out of money. Why do they run out of money? Because they calculated, well, it's going to cost me this much to open. And when I open the doors, this thing has gone through the roof. And instead of doing this, typically it grows like this. And that right there costs a ton of money that you need to bank on. And that's why most restaurants don't make it, because they're not well capitalized enough. Basically, they didn't raise enough money and they were too optimistic on their forecast of how much they're going to sell and how fast and how popular it's going to be, and they didn't build enough cushion, for the dark days. Absolutely. Yes, sir. Should be wearing a Dodgers hat, no? After last night.
I'm Gregory Beans.
Pleasure to meet you.
Throughout your journey, has there ever been a project that you worked on that intimidated you or made you question your own ability, and how did you overcome it?
All the time, man, all the time. That's why I love this business, because it's constantly challenging me. And I'll tell you, this industry is very intimidating. I still have this nightmare, true story. Before every opening, I get really poor night of sleep because I have this fear. We open the doors and no one shows up to my party. And I have this anxiety about that because there's so many people that are betting on this thing to work, right? And you have your teammates on one hand, which is why we talked about the team. It's like, I have a responsibility to them. Like, they put blood, sweat, and tears. They've been training, they've been planning, they're pumped up, pre-shift, rah, let's go. And we were in that camp. So it's like, I don't want to let them down. I have Jose, and his family. Like, he's given me a responsibility with his name. It's like, go do the right deals and then execute it the right way. Like, that is a big responsibility, So I have that anxiety. It's like, am I letting the big boss down? Then we have all these investors and partners. I got hotel partners. Marriott wants this to be the hottest hotel and get people put in millions of dollars to building this. I have all that. It's the fiduciary responsibilities. And then I have the responsibility of the guests. And I had a call last night. I'll give you a real-time example. We just opened our steakhouse in Vegas called Bazaar Meat. It used to be at the Sahara Casino. It's now at Palazzo at the Venetian. Killer steakhouse. All the buzz, the rage, 11-year run, one of the top restaurants in Vegas year in and year out, ranked #1 steakhouse. We opened this in Venetian, and I get a call from a buddy of mine, very high profile guy in Vegas. And he calls, he's like, hey, Sammy, I love you like a brother, which is why I'm calling you directly, because everyone else is like so respectful and they know we just opened. And he goes, just lays it on. And I'm about to go into yoga, literally. And I'm sitting there, true story, this happened last night. And I'm like, all right, you have 6 minutes. I got to go into yoga, like to hit reset. And this is the perfect conversation. He laid it on so thick, and I was respectful. But that right there is the challenge I have, where I'm sitting there, I'm like, here's someone, and I love him because he was honest and he was direct and he was straight with me. And he didn't mince his words. And he's like, here's 10 things that were a disaster during my visit. And your team knew I was coming in. And that right there is my biggest fear that I have restaurant to restaurant. It's like, I knew him and he called me and laid it on, directly. But how many people have similar experiences that I don't know about, And that's where the passion comes in, because if I had to live that, now multiply that by 365 nights a year, by 45 restaurants going to 100, that's a lot of heat to take. But it's the passion of, okay, what are we doing? There's also positive experiences we're delivering to others. We're building careers for our teammates. I'm making money for our investors. I'm taking Jose's brand global and bigger and badder, and he's now able to go feed people because the business is doing well. He's now more in the field. That's the offset of this, but it's a really good question because that's constantly on my mind, and that's why I do yoga.
Awesome. Any other questions?
One in the back, behind the pillar. Make it a good one.
I'll try.
This one's for Michelle.
Yeah. Okay, so my name is Shapali. So my question is, who really comes up with the concept? Is it like, since you said you have different restaurants like Michelin star and you also have food trucks, do you invest in someone else's concept, or is it like all José Andrés who comes up with
all
the concept?
in-house? It's a great question because ultimately, as Jose said, he's like, all lines point back to Jose. But like the burger example I get, that was Chef Nico Lopez's creation inside of José Andrés Group. Jose blessed it, like it's like knighting someone. It's like your burger has been knighted by Jose, you know. But the beauty is we have a flat organization. And I always say the best ideas, ironically, don't come from up top. And I'll give you an example, not on the culinary side, but on the cocktail side. This Thursday, I'm in New York, or next, or a week from today, I'm in New York. I have a session for a couple of my executives where we're actually going to be training and testing non-alcoholic beverages because there's a massive uptick in people not drinking. And I challenged not our head cocktail and spirits partners or the head bartenders. I challenged anyone that works behind the bar to submit their recipe. Because in my mind, the best ideas, there's no monopoly on good ideas. There could be someone that literally is on their first job, but they're a creative talent. Let them have an opportunity to shine. Culinary has been doing that for years. Dishes like, hey, chef, try this. What do you think about that? And that's the beauty. It's like, yes, there's a hierarchy because of execution, because that's experience, right? And that's proven yourself like anything else. But from the ideation, the idea generation, that can happen anywhere except with me, because I don't have any good ideas on culinary. But the team in the kitchen, they do. And then the beauty is it works its way up to chef partner, and then ultimately our chief culinary officer, our chief creative officer, and then Jose. So there is like tiers of people to sign. It's like head chef, executive chef, so on and so forth. But it's really fun. I love it because I love this year we're launching the Jaggies. This will be our first year. It's an award show that I hatch where I'm like, I want to see everyone submit their best ideas and let's celebrate those ideas because, you know, a lot of chef-driven companies, it's like no one can shine but the chef. Why, again, going back to the question about Jose, I forgot someone asked about, I think it was the hardest, you know, the Jose part. That was Brittany. That Jose question, there is an ego involved here. And that's why I love the man. It's the humility that it's like, yeah, I'm a global brand, but I respect the food runner as much as I do, you know, the lead investor. And that's why I love where I work and what I do.
So do you, sorry, this is a follow-up question.
I'm going to charge you if you ask two questions.
So if someone submits their idea, is it you who comes up with the costing and all of it, or do they
Our team. Again, my job is irrelevant. I'm like, I don't cook, I don't cost it out, I don't serve. Like, but there's teams. So what happens, someone submits the recipe, and I'm giving you directionally kind of where it goes. They're like, wow, this non-alcoholic cocktail is unreal. Then our beverage team is like, okay, now let's break down the cost. What's the real cost of this? How much did we use in this ingredient and that, and what's the real cost? And then it goes into the formula of, okay, within the bar, how many of this do we think we can sell? Because it could be incredible and it could cost well, but may not be that. But like a margarita, we have multiple different variations. People love margaritas. There's more of it. So then they analyze based on the margin, how much can we sell? How does that play into the math of running a bar? But it's a team effort between the culinary team, or in this case, the beverage team, operations, finance. And then marketing comes in. They're like, oh, we love this idea. And then they work your magic, Angie. They're like, you know what we can do with this? We can go viral and create stories and whatnot and tell that story to the outside world. It's a team effort.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Joseph. I was wondering about your.
There we go. Joseph got the right hat on.
Yeah. I was wondering, out of your fusion restaurants, which one does the best revenue-wise, and what city is it in?
Yeah, so it's funny. Thank you for that question, Joseph. One of the things we really are respectful of is we don't use the word fusion. And I'll tell you why. Because I use that and Jose ripped my head off when the first time I did it. I'm like, you know, the have that has Chinese and Mexican. He's like, we don't do fusion. We stay true to the Mexican side. We stay true to the Chinese side. And that's a big differentiator that we're very passionate about. Not that it's right or how we do it. Where we have Mediterranean, the one I was telling you about earlier with Mama Noura. It's Greek, it's Turkish, and it's Lebanese. 3 distinct, and it is, I know it's a successful restaurant. By the way, the short answer is Zaytinya in DC by far is the flagship, and it's been documented. It's doing over $20 million, and it has those 3. But the best part of the story, I've had Turkish buddies of mine come from Istanbul, and they're basically like, I have to give you feedback. My grandmother makes such a better pide than you guys do. That's not that good. Then my Lebanese friends come in, and they're like, your falafels are not that good. My mom's falafels are way better. So basically, my Greek friends complain, my Turkish friends and my Lebanese friends, I know I did something right. Comparing, it's so authentic that they're comparing that cooking, how it is in their home. That's how we basically ultimately tried, and we have chef partners that are local, that are the experts to teach you, how to roll the dumplings properly and make sure that it's, the thin dumpling exterior and it's prepared properly. That's how we do our version of bringing multicultures together is that.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Good question, Joseph. And we got one question up front too. Yeah, I think so.
No, you're
Yeah, 5 minutes.
5 minutes. Okay, so I have 5 minutes.
Okay. So, what do you think? What is the biggest challenge for now in the food industry and hospitality for today?
I still only have 5 minutes. I need 5 hours for that question. What's the biggest challenge in the food industry? There's a few things. The industry is under a lot of pressure. Number one, I think there's been a challenge on labor in finding people who love this industry. And it's a shame. Some of us committed our whole lives to serving others in different ways. Yet I think a lot of shift has happened, especially with the younger generation, where working in a restaurant used to actually be the most prestigious role, serving others. And you were a civil servant. You took a lot of pride in that because you were serving others, and there's a lot of value. And in a lot of cultures, there's a lot of value in that. So I think one, cultural interest in working in the service industry has shifted. So we need to bring it back. And I love this room so much because you're the future of this, to say, hey, we're going to come in and build a career in this. It's not a transitional job where I was a bartender in college. Made some money and I paid some bills. And I ended up making a career out of it, but it wasn't the lens I went in. And there's so many people that are servers for the flexibility, but they want to do something. There's nothing wrong with that, but it'd be great to actually build excitement around working in the food industry. Number 2 is the cost of labor has outpaced the profit margin. So it was a low profit margin business to begin with. The cost of labor, food costs, and rents outpaced how much money the restaurants were making. So I'll give you some real example. Minimum wage in certain markets has tripled. Food costs over the past few years, even before the chaos of tariffs, inflation made our food costs go up high. Landlords, equally, just raising it by the regular price that they raise it, rents are at an all-time high. So that's the dynamic. So what did the restaurant industry do? They're like, okay, well, if I had 10 points of margin and it kept eroding and eroding, eroding, how do I make money and pay my people and buy all the food I need and pay the rents and the operating costs? I'm going to raise pricing. That game is ended because it's honestly offensive to go out and eat now. And I'm like, some places I go, I'm like, for mediocre food, what they're charging is it's offensive. And I've been very vocal. We try to keep pricing as on the lower quartile, and we've had to raise pricing. Sometimes I look at our pricing, I'm like, it's getting so expensive. So what happened? Consumers started pushing back. They're like, well, I can't afford to go out as much as I used to. So they're going out less, and the consumer's buying less because they're so expensive. Then on the consumer side, the other challenge is tastes have changed. Because of these GLP-1 drugs, which are like Ozempics, people are eating less. Younger kids are not drinking as much. Because of health and wellness, people realize like, you know, maybe you shouldn't drink as much as you used to. So we've seen 3 years in a row a decline in alcohol sales. So these are just some, and we can go deeper on any of these. These are, you know, 4 or 5 things that are headwinds against the industry. The one saving grace, because I am an optimist, so I'm going to finish on. When you look at the world today and technology, everyone's got their phone out in every facet of life. People are constantly on their phones. You go to a concert, what do you see? Right? And I'm like, you're not vibing with the concert. Like you're literally everyone's videotaping. You go to a sporting event, same thing. Can't like, I got to capture this play, right? You go to a restaurant, the camera eats first, so you got to take your picture, you know, for the camera. But then what happens? This happens. You're not engaged in a conversation. There is no device, by and large. And that's the saving grace where the restaurant, the dining room, is going to be this reset bastion where people can go and actually break off from technology, socialize, interact, and be human again. And that's why I'm optimistic on our industry.
Oh, amazing. Well, thank you so much, Sam.
I
It's
appreciate
been-
you.
it's
Thank
been
you,
a
Michelle.
pleasure.
Thank you, everyone. Really appreciate all the questions. Keep doing what you're doing, and I hope we end up partnering together. So I was telling Michelle, we launched an internship